Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, yes, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. It is back, and we are back in the East Dulwich Tavern after a 3 or 4 week absence. Yeah. We've been doing lots of shoots, obviously in skies. Lots of you guys have watched and enjoyed during the World Cup, but it does feel great to be back in the EDT. My Cubs, we're here.
Yes.
The final is decided. It's going to be a hell of a game.
It's going to be a huge game. I mean, you know, obviously very sad to see Morocco go out. I thought that was one of the maybe the game of the tournament, actually, Morocco-France. I just think it had everything. Morocco, you know, could have won that game on another day if their finishing was better, if they just had, you know, but France obviously defended great and took their chances when they needed to. I don't know, it just there was something about it, and obviously you could almost feel what the atmosphere was like as well, couldn't you? Like, I would have loved to have been there in that stadium where, you know, I think it was like 80% Morocco fans, as it has been throughout the whole tournament. But having said that, Argentina-France is a classic matchup, isn't it? Especially the fact that, you know, there's a bit of, you know, we're looking back at, you know, the game of the tournament in Russia was that last 16 match. Argentina out for revenge. You know, there's just so many things, isn't there? You know, Messi, you know, obviously it's all about him. But then Mbappe, if he were to win it for a second time, that's like, you know, shades of Pelé in 1962. Absolutely, being that, you know, the young star winning it twice in a row. So yeah, there's so many little narratives that it's, you know, the culmination of what has been, at least in football terms, a very interesting World Cup. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, we'll get on to the final in due course, Henry, but in terms of football, as McCubb says, what a tournament it's been.
Yeah, I mean, it's been great. I think we were talking that the third round of group stage fixtures, the jeopardy involved, probably as exciting as I've ever seen it. It's been amazing to see. We've seen South Korea pull off some shocks, Japan play some amazing football. As we've said on this channel.
We did, many times.
Many times. Some other teams we said were going to do well, did less well.
Not so much.
Serbia, I'm looking at you. But yeah, no, you're right. It's been a pretty great tournament, and to echo that, see Morocco come through the way they've done. I mean, I think we said, like, they've had an exciting, fun team, and that's what you need at international football. And it was just listening to the manager say at the end of the game, just with so many players at 60, 70% fitness, it was always going to be a struggle. I mean, Saiss and again, they looked battered sort of 2 games ago, didn't they? But they sort of managed to get there in the end. Yeah, it's amazing. It's great. It's been, football terms, it's been great for, like, growing the game and spreading it out. And yeah, I was in Morocco only sort of in the summer, and I can't imagine what the atmosphere must have been like back there. But yeah, as you say, classic final. And weirdly, I'm all in on Argentina. Just want them to do it.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, I mean, we're saying that obviously we're not forgetting about all the migrant deaths that happened in the build-up to this tournament. I mean, any tournament with, I think it was close to 7,000 migrant deaths, 2 more during this tournament as well, can never really be classified as a success. But in terms of footballing terms, you know, the stories of the African sides doing particularly well, all of them getting a win. Tunisia beating France, Cameroon beating Brazil, Middle Eastern sides like Saudi Arabia beating Argentina, Iran destroying Wales as well. I'm missing out numerous ones as well, but so many great storylines there. And to see some of the big boys of European football, Germany, Spain underwhelm, Belgium, Denmark really disappoint as well. Just was a phenomenal World Cup in terms of drama. But today, guys, we're going to pick our most underrated 11 of the World Cup. So this isn't your Messis, Mbappes, Griezmanns, etc., who are all competing for the Golden Ball. It's the players that have gone slightly under the radar. We'll start with goalkeeper, guys. McCubbs, why don't you kick us off? Who is your most underrated goalkeeper of the World Cup?
Difficult, because there have been a number of, I feel like it's been a kind of a World Cup of extremes in many ways. There have been a number of goalkeepers who have had pretty shocking tournaments. Yeah. I feel like the art of claiming a cross has really taken a hit over the last month. But at the same time, there have been some brilliant ones. You know, Andres Noppert, I think, deserves a shout. I think Wojciech Szczęsny as well was brilliant for Poland up until the last 16. Weirdly, I don't know whether does it count? And it's probably recency bias, but I think Hugo Lloris has had a superb tournament, especially in the last 2 games. I thought he was excellent against England. I thought he was brilliant against Morocco. I think he was, you know, obviously last line of defence and a big reason why Morocco, you know, was struggling to get joy on Wednesday night, because they were putting so many balls into the box, which obviously suits France because they've got Konate is just brilliant at clearing the lines, isn't he? But equally, Lloris was pretty brave and came out and claims a lot and made the right decision every time, and the execution was there. So I think. Does he count as underrated, Lloris?
You can have him.
I might stick him in there because I feel like he probably won't get the golden. He probably isn't winning with a shout of the Golden Glove because France tend to concede every game. Mm-hmm. And who knows? I might be missing out a clanger in the group stages. I'm sure he might have had a clanger in the group stages, but in the knockouts, he's been almost faultless.
Yeah, love that. Okay, I mean, yeah, Szczęsny's a worthy inclusion. To be honest, for me, he's competing with the Golden Glove alongside probably Kovacic, so that's why I didn't include him in this underrated. But both of them definitely have a shout. Henry, anyone else you'd like to bring to the table?
It's interesting. I agree with you. I think for me, Kovacic is the goalie of the tournament.
Yeah.
He's been so impressed, and even giving away that penalty, not really his fault, is it?
Yeah.
We put that out on Euro Football Daily's community feeds, which was who people thought was the goalie of the tournament. And of the 20,000 that voted, over 50% said Bono
50%.
For which I rate. I think he's looked pretty classy at times, playing on the edge with some of his passing. I don't think for me, it doesn't quite make it for me. I like that people have gone for it. I'm going to go for Noppert. I just think his story is unbelievable. I mean, I was writing about how Pasveer was probably going to be the goalkeeper for the Netherlands going in, but he's had a bit of a difficult 6 months really. But yeah, Noppert, his whole story. So I've only played basically 3 top-flight games prior to 2021-22. Most of his time in the second division of Dutch football and in Serie B with Foggia. To come in and perform the way he's done, 6'8" as well, big guy, made some big saves. As an underrated keeper, he plays a Heerenveen. I mean, yeah, I'm 100% putting Noppert in my XI, but yeah, I do agree with you about Lloris. People seem to love to jump down his throat a bit every now and then for no real reason. I mean, this should be the end of his cycle. After this, I think he should walk away from the French team and leave it up to their other exciting young keepers too. But yeah, for me, Noppert makes the XI.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you about Bono. I don't think he had enough to do pre the semi-finals. I think he only faced 5 shots, which was a massive credit to Morocco's defence up to that point, as that stat that everyone was talking about, only conceded 1 goal up to the semi-finals as well, which was an own goal against Canada. But I don't think you can face 5 shots and be in the discussion for underrated keeper or keeper of the tournament for me. Another player to shout out quickly is Armand Darman, the Tunisian keeper. He faced 10 shots on target and saved 9. 90% save percentage, obviously that works out best in the competition. 2 clean sheets in 3 games, crucial to that win over France, of course, and then low scoring defeats to Denmark and Australia as well. But yeah, I probably agree with you guys. In terms of underrated, I'm going with Noppert, just because Szczęsny and Kovacic have probably got the credit they deserve and will be competing for that Golden Glove. Right, let's get on to defenders. There's been a numerous ones sent in from fans. I think MND Arthur's suggestion of Nicolas Otamendi is a great shout. I think he'd be in my team of the tournament.
So I thought you were going to do Harry Maguire. I thought you were about to do your big apology live on air.
I did that. I put that on Twitter yesterday, to be fair. I went quite hard on Harry Maguire pre-tournament, and I didn't think he should start, and I was proved exceptionally wrong. I thought he looked brilliant in the tournament, particularly that US game. He held that together in a really shaky performance. Him and John Stones, that sort of telepathy they've got at the back makes a massive difference to England's chances. And England looked pretty solid defensively throughout that entire tournament. Yes, Pickford had a couple of good saves to make, one against Senegal and one against France, I seem to remember. But Maguire, coming back from the year that he's had, massive props to him. So yeah, he's got a shout for underrated 11 for sure. But Henry, Otamendi, I think, has probably been the centre-back of the tournament.
Do you reckon?
Ooh.
Maybe. I thought against the Netherlands he was pretty poor. I mean, it seems to me against the Netherlands that is when they took off Romero that things fell apart. I think they've all of those sort of... Martinez has been the most consistent in terms of his performances. But yeah, Romero had a tricky game against Saudi Arabia. Yeah. And then Otamendi... I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe I've not been looking at it too much. What I will say to him, he's 34 years old. Obviously played at City for a bit, Benfica these days, and I think it's just proof that in international football sometimes you need that kind of elder statesman at the back sometimes, and Otamendi's been that. I mean, we saw in that kind of penalty shootout celebrations, how much it means and how much he's living this whole journey with the Argentine side right now. I mean, he'll win his 100th cap in the final, which is pretty cool. Only the 8th Albiceleste player to reach that milestone. And yeah, he has been really strong. I mean, he leads his side for tackles and interceptions, level with Rodrigo de Paul, who's actually grown into this tournament.
He really has,
as well. 5 more clearances. I mean, a lot of people saying, I mean, Simeone's got nowhere to hide after this. A lot of his players are coming back in good form. Yeah, he's got Grealish. Griezmann player of the tournament. Grealish, I made like a combination of the two. Maybe that
combining
both. Maybe that should be a thing. Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right. Maybe I'm not looking at this properly. Maybe Otamendi is. I like Otamendi. I always thought he was really solid for City. And yeah, clearly he's loving it at Benfica as well. So yeah, sure, why not?
Fair. He also had some useful contributions to Pep's first few titles as well, when there was injury issues there as well. But yeah, his game time did drastically reduce when the Spaniard came in. McCubbs, who would be your shout for defenders? Who do you want to sort of shine a light on?
I mean, someone who's not down here, I think Rodri probably deserves a shout, given, there were lots of question marks as to why he was starting at centre-back at the start of the tournament. I actually kind of trusted Luis Enrique on that. I kind of thought, he is a class act, isn't he, Rodri? He's been, probably the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League over the last 2 years. And has great defensive attributes, and obviously in that Spain. So I think he worked really well. He was one of Spain's best players. Despite their ultimately disappointing tournament, I think everything that they did well was kind of through him in many ways, especially given that midfield wasn't quite as sparky as we would have hoped. I think Pedri had a slightly quiet tournament, didn't he? But I'd say I really like at 3 in midfield suggestion of Mohamed Salisu. Obviously, Ghana didn't make it through the groups, but it was a bit of a shame because I really enjoyed every Ghana game I watched. They were quite unlucky to lose to Portugal, was it, in their first game, and they were quite an open team. This is the thing; they were quite an open team, and if you are quite an open team, and shout out to someone like Mohamed Kudus as well. We probably need to give him a shout out in the midfield. Like, he was great, although I think he got more plaudits. You need someone like Salisu in your backline because he is, almost bit similar to Konaté's performance yesterday for France. Like, he's just a defender's defender, isn't he? He's not bad on the ball, but he is. His defensive attributes are just so good, and I have a bit of a soft spot. Like, I just feel like defenders like that are just great to watch, and like the fact that he's made 5 more clearances than any other player in the tournament, and yet he only played 3 games. It's just mad, and he was unlucky. He put in a great challenge on Cristiano Ronaldo in that Portugal game, which was given as a foul, was a penalty. So that was a shame, and but he was just absolutely magnificent in every game. I think he absolutely saved Ghana on a number of occasions. So I would put him in there, and I'd probably put. I think I might put Romain Saiss, the NKS Akline. Sorry, that I've absolutely butchered your name there, or your Twitter handle. Just because he's the Morocco captain, and they had the best defence in the tournament. I think you can't really look past that. Maybe not overrated in that sense, but like, I think he has
playing
to make
through
it
the pain as well.
Yeah.
Just on Salisu, he's really new to international football. He only made his debut for Ghana recently, so that's a real good find for them. Also, just quickly, I think Maya Yoshida, he had a really great tournament, and I think
did not see that coming.
Yeah, did not see that coming at all, and I thought he marshalled that Japanese back line incredibly well next to Ikatura, who's a really good player for Mönchengladbach. But I thought Yoshida, what a swan song, also 34 years old, whatever, playing for Schalke, bottom of the Bundesliga. I thought Yoshida had an amazing tournament.
Nice. Okay, right back. I think we've got to get Juranovic in, suggested by @Ollie Carpenter. I think him being the best player on the pitch against Brazil in that game was, and he was by a distance, and you had Neymar, Richarlison, Vinicius Junior, Modric, Kovacic on there.
As well.
He was great as well, but I thought Juranovic, particularly for the first 60 minutes or so, was absolutely exceptional. I thought it was one of the best individual performances I've seen in this World Cup, probably alongside Gonzalo Ramos in that last 16 game against Switzerland. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I've got the stats from that game down here. So he made 4 tackles, completed 100% of them, 1 interception, completed 94% of his passes, which playing in a full-back position is almost unheard of, and created 3 chances too. Yes, he slightly ran out of steam against Argentina and was at fault for that Alvarez goal, or partly at fault for it. Him and Sosa both failed to clear it. But for that alone, I think he deserves a spot in our 11. Left back's a bit harder. I saw some people suggesting Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw had a good tournament. I don't think it was probably as good as his Euros tournament. I think Daley Blind, McCubbs, your old Man United player.
Yeah, he was really solid. I think there was a lack of great left backs in this tournament. Actually, looking back to 2018, I believe there was as well. I think Ashley Young was maybe even made the team of the tournament, which is ridiculous. And he was incredibly average.
It's the weakest position in world football.
Yeah, it is weird. It's weird, isn't it? Euro expert. I respect your expert's opinion on a lot of things. I think he's, had some great shouts over the last year. But he suggested Bono Sosa, which I think just goes to show. I think it's for it is for lack of outstanding left backs in this tournament, because at least on the basis of the last 2 games, I don't think Sosa's had a good tournament. And fair play to Croatia for getting where they have. I don't think I watched every 90 of them under a microscope in the group stages, for example. But I think he was Croatia's weak link against Brazil. He got hooked at half-time against Argentina. So, I wasn't overly impressed with him. He has been, he's been threatening to explode for a while now. He's obviously been pretty great for Stuttgart over the last few years. But, he wasn't really doing it for me this tournament. I think Daley Blind, just from being pretty solid throughout, he is just Mr. Reliable, isn't he?
Had that great game against the US, I remember.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And he was really good. I mean, he got a goal and an assist, didn't he? That delivery for Dumfries at the end. Yeah, God, my brain's been fried by this World Cup, as you can tell. And there was someone else I was thinking about before, but I've forgotten who they are. So I'll go with Daley Blind. I think he has been probably the best, and he is a perennially underrated player.
Okay, so, I like it. So we've got Daley Blind, we've got Juranovic, and who did we have in goal? I can't even remember. Noppert in goal. So we've got Daley Blind, and then I'm putting Otamendi in. He has to be in. And then the other centre-back, there was the shout of Salisu, there was the shout of Harry Maguire. Didn't even give a shout. Roman Saiz. It's got to be Saiz, I think. Yeah. Come on, guys. You're in agreement with me. It's got to be Saiz. Okay, let's move on. We didn't even mention Nathan Ake. Had a great tournament. Was embarrassed by Lionel Messi, but then better defenders than Nathan Ake have been throughout their careers. Let's move on to midfield. Henry, you can start. We're doing a 4-3-3 in case you haven't noticed. Henry, you can pick any midfielder you like.
Okay, well...
Oh, God. Here we go. Oh, no. He's preparing for something absolutely mental.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to gather myself. Sorry, guys. I'm a bit
Henry is under the weather, by the way.
I mean, it's weird. Kovacic is not... He can't really be underrated when you've played for Real Madrid and Chelsea. And yet, here it kind of does make sense at the same time. He is a beautiful footballer on his day. His injuries are really his main problem, but he completed 90% of his passes. Only Modric could top his tally for passes into the final third and progressive passes, and that's no bad person to be behind in that regard. Also joint top with Modric for tackles and interceptions. Let's face it, if Croatia had a bit of thrust in the forward line, they might be in this final. Do you know what I mean? Well, I mean, they got blitzed in that final game, but that midfield was just brilliant to watch at times. And I do think Croatia to reach a final and semi-final in consecutive World Cups is an unbelievable performance as a nation. And so I think in many ways Kovacic does deserve a place, but I actually think at the bridge. Pod's suggestion of Tyler Adams is really good in terms of an underrated player. I think I really enjoyed this USA team. I thought that they looked a bit sluggish against Wales, but they really turned it on against England, and then to come through that Iran game was very impressive.
With everything riding on it.
Yeah, with everything riding on it. There's a lot of Iranian players actually we could have probably mentioned for this team as well. I think one of their fullbacks was wicked. But Tyler Adams, for me, makes it in. I mean, he led his side passing to final third, progressive passing, tackles and interceptions. He's done really well. I mean, he had a difficult game against the Dutch, but I mean, the problem is they went behind early and they're suddenly having to chase the game, really, which I don't think was their game plan. I think he held himself really well in terms of the press conferences that he did. We haven't maybe seen the best of him at Leeds United so far, but obviously Jesse Marsh's fairly frenetic style is quite hard to be a solid defensive midfielder within. But I really like the suggestion of Tyler Adams. He may not get in the team Azzedine, Ounahi, etc. All good players. But yeah, Adams or Kovacic for me.
Nice. Two good suggestions. I think Adams might not make it just on the basis that performance against the Netherlands was it was a bit of a shame. Like he didn't quite hit his level there, was maybe at fault for at least one of the goals I seem to remember. But a worthy inclusion in the discussion at least. I think Henry's shout there, or Great Dabuz's suggestion of Azzedine Ounahi, I think he has to be in, to be honest, in terms of underrated stars. He's probably defined this World Cup in terms of a player no one had really heard of. Was a bit part player at Angers last year. He hadn't played any top flight football before the start of last season. He's become a regular at Angers this year, and he does look really, really exciting there. I think he's completing around 77% of his dribbles for Angers this year, which for a central midfielder is absolutely exceptional. I think that's around the same amount of dribbles per 90 as Messi in Liga as well. So, you know, the stats were there if you knew enough about him. I didn't know anything about him, and he lit up this tournament. I thought in particular his performance against Portugal was absolutely exceptional. On the day, 3 dribbles, created 2 of their 9 chances as well. And I wrote this script before their game against France last night, and he matched up really well against Fofana and Tchouaméni in there as well. So Ounahi has to be in for me. The Cubs, who else would you like to put in there?
Yeah, I think with Ounahi, I think that was the thing with, you know, Morocco had been playing, you know, counter-attacking football by and large throughout this tournament. I think they were averaging the second worst possession in the tournament after Costa Rica up until the France game, and then they had 60% possession in the France game. And Ounahi, you know, ran the midfield for much of the game. Him and what's his name, Amrabat. Their connection was just great, wasn't it? I mean, I know Tchouaméni and Fofana were like have that similar kind of connection from Monaco in terms of Fofana just seemed to always have Tchouaméni's back, and it felt like that the same way with Ounahi and Amrabat. They were just both so silky. So yeah, Ounahi has to be in there. I think another player who has to be in there for me is Ritsu Doan. Suggested from at Eunice for Real. I think there has to be at least one Japan player in this team, because I think in some ways, you know, out of all the teams that I'm a bit sad didn't make it further, I think Japan are the one, because they were the story of the group stages in many ways. Like to top a group containing really strong Spain and Germany side. These, you know, I know they both disappointed at the tournament, but over the last 2 years, they have looked at points like 2 of the best teams in the world. Like this time last year, and I'm going to, you know, if Joe does reacting to predictions for this year, I'm going to take absolute pelters, because last year I put Spain or Germany to win the World Cup. So yeah, egg on my face. I didn't realise I didn't realise they were going to be in the same group, by the way. So that, you know, that put them at a business disadvantage. But at the same time, they beat both of them. They played some of the best, you know, it was some of the best tournament football I've ever seen in terms of like tactically, and you know, to basically beat both Spain and Germany in 2 10-minute spells. It was just genius, I think. And yeah, you have to ride your luck a little bit, but like, I think the thing is that Ritsu Doan was key to both of those victories. Obviously, got the first goal against Germany. Did he get was it the first or second goal against? No, he got the first goal against Spain as well, I believe. And you know, his introduction into both games, he just changed the game on both occasions so quickly, and that is obviously a testament to the Japan manager. But like, I don't know, there was just something about him and that Japan team that really captured the imagination. I just thought he was great to watch and yeah, just like in terms of like the efficiency of like the minutes that he played, just had such a big impact on this tournament. And yeah, I think Japan, you know, it's a shame because I think Japan were the better team against Croatia for much of that second round, and it would have been amazing to see them face up against Brazil.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing well for Freiburg this year, who are playing really well. He was, if you go back to an early episode of Continental Club in the summer, we said he's a player to watch this season as a transfer. And
after he joined from PSV. Yeah.
7 million euros. And yeah, you're so right. I agree with you. I think Doan has to be in terms of getting a Japanese player in there, because he's just really tricky. He's great to watch, isn't he? He's a really good player.
Well, one of his teammates also has a worthy shout, I think. This was suggested by Deathstroke33 in Kairo Matoma as well. Been brilliant for Brighton this year in limited minutes, and was exceptional for Japan in limited minutes in this World Cup. Was operating at 0.83 expected assists per 90. That's the best record in the World Cup. And yes, he only played 165 minutes, but he looked so dangerous and fluid whenever he got on the pitch. And he was the guy that hooked that ball in, which nearly crossed the line, that didn't cross the line, against Spain, of course, in that controversial fashion, of course. But I thought he was brilliant. Alexis McAllister as well, suggested by @Matimba_AK. Didn't play against Saudi Arabia, but his introduction alongside Enzo Fernandez really, has solidified that midfield. I think he's picked up really dangerous areas, chipped in with a goal as well against Poland. Excellent, really excellent goal in that game as well. And it's just so fun to see someone who has slightly gone under the radar at Brighton over the last few years. It's only really in the last 6 months that he's probably started getting the respect that he probably deserved in his earlier days there, even though he was slightly bit part. But he's looked brilliant in this World Cup. I think him and Enzo Fernandez probably have a shout for team of the tournament as well, let alone underrated stars. So let's see where we go with that one. So also shout out Rabiot. I think Rabiot's had a really good tournament. I know he was ill last night. And I think it made a big difference. I actually don't think Fofana played nearly as well as Rabiot. I just love his security on the ball with Rabiot. Popped up with a goal as well against Australia as well, continuing that scoring form from his final few weeks at Juventus. Tchouameni as well. Can you really count him as an underrated star? Now he's playing for Real Madrid, etc. But I think he's had a great tournament as well. Couple of mistakes in there, not least giving away that penalty against England. But there was a moment last night where he nearly created 2 goals in the same sequence, having driven through 2 players in midfield. And I was just like, this guy is just scarily good. So, yeah, he's got a deserved shout. But I think we're all in agreement we want Doan in there.
Doan.
Ounahi. Who's our third?
I think Kovacic. I think that's a really solid midfield three, that.
Maybe play Kovacic
there's not much defensive cover in there, but I think it's fine. It's pure fun, isn't it? It's pure fun. Ounahi can defend as well, can't he?
He can indeed. Right, let's get on to the forward line. This is going to be really difficult, guys. I think there's loads of good shouts in here. Henry, what is your suggestion for your forwards? You can, we're looking for 2 wide men and a striker, but I've actually put down more strikers than wide men. Anyway.
At Aziz Abdan's suggestion of En-Nesyri, mainly because he's been pretty poor for Sevilla recently, hasn't he? I mean, 7 goals in his last 43 games for them. He's not getting in my team, although he did get 2 goals, one of which is one of my favourite goals of the whole tournament.
Goal.
Yeah, the height on that.
Do you know how high he jumped?
No.
Apparently it was 9 feet.
It's unbelievable. The pitch.
I mean, he is about 6'5" to start with, but it's a long way.
No, it's when you see him off the ground compared to Costa and
who is it? Ruben Dias. You realise what a leap that was. Yeah. It was one of those where I was actually in a pub for that game, and the whole place just exploded, and it's just quite fun.
I've only watched one game in a pub.
Yeah, I know. That's the only thing I'd say about this World Cup. Not enough.
We have been working hard, but yeah,
that is true. But
I don't know whether it's been the same in the pubs. Anyway,
I'm pleased for En-Nesyri, and fingers crossed he can take that form back to.
Well, they need it.
Sevilla. Yeah, but I'm just going to go all in on Giroud, and at Seawood86's suggestion, Olivier Giroud. This baffling conversation about how good he is. He's got nothing to prove to anyone. Yeah, he didn't score in the last World Cup, still picked up a World Cup winners' medal. He might get another one. He's got 4 goals in 4 games going into the semi-final against Morocco. Didn't have a great game against Morocco, hit the post. But to be honest,
missed a good chance actually.
Yeah. But to be honest, France was sitting back for most of that game, and it wasn't really his game, was it? We saw Mbappe became the main outlet.
They manage games so well.
But his header against England, I just thought was great. I really like Giroud. He's 35, 36 years old.
36.
Leads the line for AC Milan. Has scored some unbelievable goals for them this season. Now France's all-time top goal scorer. Yeah, that'll probably fall to Mbappe in a few years' time. But I mean, what does this guy have to do to earn the ultimate respect, which he fully deserves?
I agree. You know what really annoyed me about when he broke Thierry Henry's record? There were some quite large Twitter accounts, probably just looking for attention, that were like, it's a joke that Giroud has gone past Henry's record. You can't compare them as players. No one is comparing them as players. Obviously Henry is one of the best players of all time. But Giroud probably would never enter that bracket. But you can't fault his scoring record. No. It is phenomenal. So I think Giroud's a great shout. McCubbs, who else have you got in there?
Yeah, I mean, on Olivier Giroud as well. I think it's also testament to Deschamps. I think Deschamps gets, not least from us, has got a bit of stick over the years. But he has got. I mean, and let's not forget, Giroud has been, was brilliant for Milan last year. But he's got, when Griezmann has got, been going through the most difficult period of his career, he's been brilliant for France, and he's always been brilliant for France, and he's almost always put in his best performances for France, at least in that kind of number 10 role. And Giroud as well has always been brilliant for them as well. Like, I think that's testament to the management around him. And yeah, I think, if Benzema was fit for this tournament, who knows, they may not have got this far. And I think also, I don't know, I was really, what really kind of brought it home how important Giroud is to this France side is when I was watching the England game in a bar in Soho, and there was this one French guy in there who was very entertaining, actually. Despite him like celebrating it, he was great comic relief about in terms of being sad after the game, because he was very funny. But when Giroud, I don't know if you remember, Giroud took a bit of a tumble in the box, and it looked like he'd twisted his ankle.
I don't actually.
And as soon as it happened, this guy was so worried that he jolted forward and knocked his glass of beer off the table, and then had to clean it up. And then he came back, and I was like, it was Giroud, wasn't it? And he was like, yeah, he's just so important. And that really brought home to me just how beloved he really is, in France, and how I think he has garnered the respect that he deserves now. I think the conversation about him being underrated or overrated is, I don't know, it's kind of got a little bit done. But he is great. I think the last year has proved that. Milan don't win their first Serie A title in 11 years without him, and France don't get to this final without him. Having said that, I do want to give a shout out to two of the other shouts on here, which I think have been great. At Eco LG Sen 1. I don't know how. Well, yeah, great name. Vincent Abubakar, brilliant. He is just the ultimate tournament player, isn't he? I didn't know anything about him until seeing the AFCON final about 5 years ago.
You don't remember at Porto at all?
Not really.
Oh, he was great.
But he was at Porto at this time, right? 2017 AFCON final, was he? He must have been Porto. But I didn't know before then, and his goal in the AFCON final. The winning goal in the AFCON final in 2017 is maybe my favourite goal in a final ever. It was just so good. Go and watch, check that out on somewhere if you can. But yeah, his cameo against Serbia was great. Obviously got the winning goal against Brazil, which is great. The one thing I will say is it was he got so much praise for taking off his shirt and getting sent off. It was oh yeah, great, what a way to bow out. I was they still had 8 minutes left in that game, and they still had a chance of going through. That was, I think it was silly. I think it was silly personally, because if they got to the second round, they were then without their ultimate clutch player in the second round of a World Cup, probably maybe his last World Cup. I thought that was silly. So
Egg versus heart over here.
Yeah, so he gets marked down, in my opinion, for that.
Marked out.
But the other guy, Smith DC, has suggested Julian Alvarez. I don't know whether it's... Yeah, I guess, the fact that he started on the bench this tournament, then came in, the most efficient player in this tournament, has scored some great goals, and again, a bit like Giroud, I think, I don't think Argentina get to this final without Julian Alvarez. I think they fall short in games, because without him, I think Messi's powers are diminished. And Lautaro, his finishing has just been off this tournament. I think otherwise his movement has been quite good. He has offered an outlet, but Julian Alvarez, I just think he's just been an absolute monster, hasn't he, when he's played? But yeah, I still think it's probably, I don't know. I'll leave this one up to you guys. I actually kind of like Abubakar as a shout, to be honest, just because I think he's. Yeah, for how long we actually saw him on the field.
To impact.
He just, it was just so that
loop goal.
The loop goal,
entertainment
man.
Per 90
man, it's just ultimate world. It's just ultimate World Cup, isn't it? It's just ultimate World Cup.
Yeah. Just quickly, there's a really good article on Sky Sports comparing this Argentina side to the 86 one, the Hand of God one with Maradona, basically talking about how they've created a very functional system around Messi. It's very similar to what Maradona was doing within that team, and what they're doing. And you're right, Alvarez is a fairly selfless player. I'd love to see him not play for City. I would love to see him start every week somewhere, because clearly he's leading the line in the
world. It's inevitable though, isn't it? He will start. Like Pep has got to. work out a system in which Haaland and Alvarez can play.
Yeah.
I think he has to.
Yeah, go check out the article about like comparing the two Argentina sides because it is really interesting culturally as well.
Nice, go check that out for sure. Final player to mention comes in from Ogbonna Ferdinand to Sofiane Boufal. You know, it was really, whenever I tweeted about him to this tournament, like loads of Southampton fans were like, either said, oh, the one that got away, or were like,
Who's class?
He was useless at Southampton. I was like, was he that bad? I don't really remember him being that bad. But I think he blew hot and cold, and there was question marks over his attitude and his work rate in particular. But he was at Southampton for 4 years, or 3 years plus a loan spell at Celta Vigo. Only got 5 goals in 84 games for the club. Is now at Angers, teammate of Ounahi as well, who had another great tournament, as we already mentioned. He's already in our side. He's in his 3rd season in Liga. And he is a phenomenal dribbler. And people just put that skill down. But for a side like Angers and for a side like Morocco, getting your team consistently into the final third is a major, major weapon. I think only 4 players in Europe's top 5 leagues completed more dribbles than him last season. And that was the likes of Mbappe, Rafa Leao, Vinicius Junior, I seem to remember as well. And he's a big game player for Morocco as well. In the AFCON earlier this year, when Mazraoui and Ziyech were out of favour with the previous coach, he got 3 goals in 5 games. And this time around, he's been absolutely brilliant as well. Probably hasn't had the goals and assists to his name that you'd expect, but I think he's been excellent. But on that basis, listening to the other shouts, he probably doesn't make my team, to be honest, Boufal, as good as he was. I think we play Giroud in the middle, Abubakar on the right,
yes, really?
And then Alvarez on the left. Or do you not?
Really?
Doesn't like that.
I can't have 3 centre forwards in my team. Personally.
But Abubakar can play where he likes, mate.
Okay, yeah, but then maybe. I would like to have a classic winger in there. I was just trying to think of wingers.
You could push Doan up there and bring in another midfielder.
Yeah,
maybe. Or we could. The problem is the wingers aren't that underrated, are they? Like Vinicius. I thought Vinicius had an amazing tournament, but you can't say that really that he's underrated. Rashford, Ismaila Sarr, I thought was great for Senegal. He really. Losing Mane was maybe the biggest, in terms of losing. I think Senegal were dealt the poorest hand in terms of injuries this tournament, and Ismaila Sarr really stepped up. I'd like to give him a shout out at least.
Rashford,
I don't know if Saka's underrated.
I
think you could say Marcus Rashford was underrated coming into this tournament. And yeah, he had a great impact.
What about if we move Doan up and bring in McAllister?
Yeah.
If you want, yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind. Yeah, go on.
Fine. Who are we dropping then out of Alvarez, Giroud,
Alvarez
out. Okay. Wow, big statement before Sunday.
Are you happy with that?
I don't mind. I just don't want 3 sets. I know Alvarez can play on the left, but I don't know. That forward line was just making me feel weird.
The traditionalist in McCubbin. I like it. He respects formations, and we just did go a little bit crazy there. But guys, that is our underrated 11 of the tournament. Where did we go wrong? Get your full 11s in the comments down below, and we'll reply to as many as possible in the next few hours. Let's move on to our big match prediction. You know which one it is. So the last time we did this, guys, it was a long, long time ago. It was before the opening games of the entire tournament. So going into that, we might as well review it because there are points to be won. England versus Iran. Henry went 1-0 to England. McCubbs went 2-1. I went 3-0. And I remember at the time being like, that's mental. That's never going to happen. Obviously, we were not very hot on England going into the tournament. Finished 6-2, so we all get a point. Netherlands versus Senegal. McCubbs went with a 1-1 draw. I went 3-1 to the Netherlands. Henry went 2-0 to the Netherlands, which was a perfect score. Well done, Henry. 3 points to you.
Nice.
1 point to me. Germany versus Japan. I went 1-0 to Germany. McCubbs went 3-1 to Germany. Henry went 2-2.
Oh, nearly.
And it finished 2-1 to Japan. Yeah. So no points to any of us, but good effort, Henry, there. So that means the scores going into this week, where there is just one game to talk about, is Doogie on 30, it's Henry on 21, and it's McCubbs on 14. So work to do in the second half of the season for Monsieur McCubbin. McCubbs, you've got work to do. We'll give you the floor. Argentina versus France. Who do you want to win, and who do you think will win?
I mean, I want Argentina to win because
we did say them pre-tournament as well.
Yeah. I mean, I had them as my I did predict them to win before the tournament. That prediction, throughout the tournament, I was becoming more shaky on because Argentina, I don't think have been, in many respects, they've probably been one of the best 4 or 5 teams of the tournament. I don't know if they've been one of the best 2, but yeah, I am rooting for Messi to win a World Cup. I think it would be the crown, a great crowning moment for who I believe to be the greatest player of all time. So I've always been kind of keen on them from that standpoint. And they have grown into this tournament. They have, I think they were...
It's been some good performances.
Yeah, like I think Croatia, they did manage that game well after what was a difficult first 30 minutes for them. That they came back from that Saudi Arabia defeat very admirably, I think, even if that Mexico game, which kept them in the tournament, was decided by 2 moments of magic from Messi and Enzo Fernandez. And that is it, isn't it? It's Messi, and this is going to be by far the hardest game for them. I think on balance, it's hard to argue against France being the best team in this tournament. I think, they have had a few shaky moments, but ultimately they are, they've managed to bounce back from what was a really disappointing Euros, a game where they completely lost control against Switzerland, and especially the last 2 games where I think England were really good against them, and they still managed to see that game out relatively comfortably in the end, the England and the Morocco games were almost the same game in many ways. They scored early against both teams. They then allowed the opposition to come onto them, and then got the second about 11 minutes before time and managed to see out the game pretty comfortably. So I think if France were to score early against Argentina, then Argentina are potentially in trouble. If Argentina can take it to half time without conceding, then I would maybe fancy them in the second half. It's really tough to call, especially given that both teams relinquished possession in those semi-finals. So it's difficult to know exactly how both teams are going to approach this game. I think ultimately, I was saying this last night, go and check out our kind of review of France-Morocco, if you haven't already. But it's really going to be one in that midfield, and where I fear for Argentina is that France do have that kind of combination of Szczęsny and Griezmann, which are just, when Griezmann's dropping in there, it's really hard to get going. And I know Morocco kind of outplayed them in the first half, but as the game wore on, Griezmann's influence increased, and if they can deal, I think Griezmann might even be, he might even be put on a man-mark job on Messi. I think that's what probably Deschamps should do. Just put Griezmann on Messi, and that means that the back line doesn't get disrupted too much. But it also means that, if Varane has to step out, or if Konate, who I think should start the final based on his performance against Morocco, has to come out, then they're not overexerting themselves. They've got 2 men on him at all times, and then Varane or whoever can deal with Alvarez. So I'm covering a lot of ground here. Basically, it's really hard to call. Come back for me for the prediction.
Yeah, why not?
It's so hard to call, but I do like. I know the Messi story is amazing, and Argentina have been the spirit they've showed has been brilliant, but I don't think France can, France have to be favourites in this game. There's no way they're not favourites for me.
Fair enough. I mean, Henry McCubbs talks about how special it would be for Argentina to get over the line given Messi, but for France there's numerous interesting storylines in this as well, not least the amount of difficulties they faced in the build-up to the tournament with injuries and so many other issues.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, losing Pogba, like him or hate him, is still a big loss.
Big for France,
yeah. Exactly. He's clearly a popular guy. I mean, Benzema as well, Ballon d'Or winner. Losing him on the brink of the tournament, that's not easy too, but there's just an unbelievable pragmatism to that team of just getting the job done. It's as well as you can sort of see a selection of world-class players gel together, I think, and I mean, it's, in terms of sort of all playing to the right tune, it's I really respect Deschamps, because people are quite sort of rude about him because, like I said, his football's not that impressive. But what if they win the World Cup again, back to back? That's once again what an achievement. So yeah, I really rate France and what they've done. They didn't have a great Nations League coming into this either. Let's not forget. But yes, I just think that Morocco showed a little bit of a blueprint of what to do against this French team who don't press particularly well with their forward players. You can sort of get at them in the midfield, and I think if McAllister, if Rodrigo de Paul in particular has a good game and can kind of try and dictate and find space in the middle to get the ball into Messi to sort of bypass that midfield, then I think there will be opportunities for Argentina in there. I didn't think that France shut up shop against Morocco in the manner that I expected them to. I mean, Morocco really did pile on the pressure. If they just had a little bit more creativity, it could have easily been 1-1. We could have easily gone a bit longer in that game. So yeah, I just think this Argentina team look a lot better than the one that got to the final in 2014.
Yeah, you can say that again.
I think they're a lot more complete. There's a lot more passion and sort of spirit behind it as well. And I don't think you can overlook like the scenes back in Buenos Aires and the fact that Messi just looks fully invested in this as a process.
Pumped.
He does look pumped. It's kind of cool to see. By the way, I pretty much flipped on my GOAT thinking. I'm on the Messi side.
Finally, Henry. Finally, you're officially a Football Daily member now. Well done, mate. Only took 3 years.
The final nail in the coffin for Ronaldo's dodgy 6 months. But yeah, I mean, what? So yeah, I mean, yeah, I just, if they win it, there's no denying that Messi's the best of all time. But yeah, I'll give a suggestion to you. I actually think Argentina are going to win this 2-0.
2-0. Wow. They're not going to concede.
2-0.
Love that. Such a big shout.
Wow, that's a huge
Such a big shout. I mean, the way I see it is that France are, in my opinion, more complete. I think they've got more attacking threats. They've got more World Cup final experience. Most of this side were playing in 2018 or in and around the squad. But they do have significantly less and significantly less pressure on them as well because they've won that final. But for me, Argentina are a much better defensive side. And the stats back that up as well. I think they're operating around 0.4 expected goals against per game or per 90. And France is about 1.1. And France, you might argue, have had a slightly harder draw in that they played England, a very good England side. Well, a very good... In terms of where... To play England in the quarterfinals is really quite unlucky in terms of standard of team because England probably were in the best 4 or 5 teams in this World Cup of performances. So to play them was quite difficult. Argentina, up until the Croatia and Netherlands games, it was quite an easy draw, I would say. Poland in the last 16
France
didn't really
have an easy group as well. I mean, that Denmark game could have swung both ways as well, as bad as Denmark were in the other games.
Absolutely. But then Argentina, significantly better defensively, and then they've just got this Messi factor. 5 goals and 3 assists. Probably looks nailed on for the golden ball right now. Could well win the top scorer as well. That's our weekly police siren. I thought actually, based on last night's performance and the last 2 performances for France, I actually think Griezmann's moved ahead of Mbappe in terms of France's best player in this tournament.
Yes, 100%.
I know Mbappe's probably popped up with more memorable moments and was still heavily involved in that goal for Randall Colomwani with that amazing bit of footwork and then that shot which deflected into his path. But I think Griezmann's been exceptional. In terms of a score prediction, the fact that France are under a lot less pressure, I do think is quite imperative. I think both teams do score. I don't think France, up until last night, had kept a clean sheet in any game. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, I think that is right. I think I did see that there, but I was suddenly doubting myself. So I'm going to go, it's not particularly entertaining, but I'm going to go 2-1 to Argentina.
Oh.
And I'd be happy if it was that, just because there's Mbappe, this France side are going to have another shot.
Yeah.
They're going to have another
for
chance.
sure. Yeah, it's very clear where our loyalties lie here, isn't it? God,
France do just have the
Look at the
ability
stress. There is so much stress under these hands.
France
right
do
now.
have the ability to score from nothing, though. Griezmann's balls into the box have been the best of anyone in this World Cup so far. They've got people that can head. I mean, Mbappe can just do something in a moment.
Yeah.
This is the problem.
France
I think
think
Argentina will concede. I think France is destined to score. I'm going to put it out here because I don't know, the agony within me right now. I think is it's pushing me in a certain direction. I think it's going to go to penalties. I think it's going to be 1-1 after 120 minutes, and then
who wins on pens?
Then I think Argentina win on pens.
Ooh,
just
really?
the Emi Martinez effect. I know Lurie is pretty good from the spot, but I still think France are favourites though. I think if you're going by pure logic, I think France win this game, but I think there's just something about this final.
You're right.
Penalties. It's going to be really horrible on Sunday. Just
there
to warn you,
it.
It's going to be really horrible.
Yeah, I mean, full credit to Argentina because people were writing them off so badly after that Saudi Arabia defeat, even though they didn't play that badly. They've had to win every game since. Whereas France, lost that game against Tunisia, but their group was already decided, their path to the last 16 was already confirmed. So it has just been a different level of pressure on Argentina throughout this tournament, and those fans have really delivered. But for France to get to, as Henry says, the injuries he mentioned, also Kimpembe, also N'Golo Kante, also Nkunku. Nkunku probably wouldn't have started, but big impact off the bench.
Shout out to Marcus Thuram, though, by the way.
Yeah.
He really, that was a great change, I thought, against Morocco. And to have him and Mawani, who are both a few years ago, it felt like almost impossible to get into the France forward line as, even as a fairly impressive player. But both, I know Mawani was great was it Nantes before he was at Frankfurt. But Thuram was kind of a bit lost, just 12 months ago, and has obviously refound his form in the Bundesliga. But to see him, make a pretty big impact for France yesterday, when their attack wasn't really having much fun in the second half against Morocco. I think it just goes to show that they still have great options.
They do indeed. Right, there we have it. I'm saying 2-1 Argentina. McCubbs is saying Argentina on pens. Henry's going 2-0 Argentina.
Easy.
No one backing France.
I know, this feels very silly. This feels very, very silly.
They'll probably win it 1-0.
Yeah. Oh, there we have it, guys. Can France become the first side since Brazil in 1962 to retain the trophy, or will it be Argentina and Messi's swan song ending as everyone on this table hopes? Guys, what are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments down below. And that's Continental Club for another week. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed this show, go and check out all our Continental Club extras. Well, some of them in the last 3 weeks ago probably aren't that relevant now, but definitely from this week, where we broke down Argentina versus Croatia, and our winners and losers earlier this week, where we broke down France versus Morocco. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you next week. Adios.